Hey, I'm Geeky Pastimes, and in this video I want to share my honest thoughts about the Call of Duty Vanguard alpha. So in this video I'm going to talk about how I found the alpha overall. You know, we've had it for a while now, it's Sunday, so we've had it for a couple of days. I've been playing it a bunch, we've won loads of games, we've lost even more games. I've tried out pretty much everything there is in the alpha except for the V2 rocket, which is really difficult to get, which isn't a bad thing by the way. I think it's a good thing that it's so difficult to get, because it's kind of that carrot that keeps on making you want to go back, making you want to have a better game to try and get it. I've literally not seen a single team get it other than in videos, you know, Charlie Intel posted and stuff. So it does seem super rare, which is a good thing. I think it's good to have something like that. But yeah, we've had the alpha for a while, so in this I kind of want to talk about what I liked about it, what I think about the game moving forwards, and then also some fairly big problems I think the COD franchise is going to have that I'll talk about in the second half of the video, so make sure you watch all the way to the end. So gameplay wise, I was happy with the alpha. I liked the gunplay a lot. I thought that was really good. I think the guns feel a bit more different to each other than they have in the last couple of games, which is really cool. I think the movement is good. Like, it's obviously heavier and clunkier than the other games, but I like that it feels different. I like that it feels a bit more solid, and it kind of matches with, you know, you traipsing around in mud and stuff of World War II. I feel like it makes more sense that you'd be a bit slower, and I think like Sledgehammer's World War II felt a bit like this as well, where it felt like there was a lot more kind of physicality in the movement, and I really like that. I thought the destructible cover was really interesting. I thought that was good. I actually liked that more the more I played it. Like, it started opening up some really interesting options. You think about, like, do you want to shoot a sort of space in it so you can see through, or smash a wall out so you can see it? It gives up some of your cover, but then it also helps you to see a little bit. Sometimes you have guns that penetrate really well, and when you see an enemy behind somewhere, it feels really satisfying shooting them through the walls. I thought it was really cool, really interesting. Obviously there's going to be tweaks. I'm sure they'll change some bits and pieces here and there about all of this stuff, but I think it's generally in a fairly solid place. There's a few things that I'd like them to change. Like, the big one is the blind fire. I think it's kind of pointless at the moment, because like, kind of what happens is you go up against a piece of cover, then if you just hold the right trigger, you kind of pop out, and if you're on a weird piece of cover, it's kind of random as to whether you'll pop out at the top or to the left or to the right. Sometimes it swings you around in weird directions, and then you can actually see while you're firing. It's like, well, why wouldn't you just like stand up or mount on the corner and fire a lot more accurately doing that? I feel like blind fire should be something that you can do where you basically stay in cover, so you can't see at all. Like, you're looking at the cover or looking at the ground, and you just like swing your arm around and fire a few shots. I feel like that would have been more interesting, but we'll see whether they change that or not. I've seen other people complaining about, you know, the screen goes too dark when you get shot, but like, you are getting shot. I feel like it makes sense for, like, if you're being shot and suppressed, it makes sense for you to like struggle a little bit, you know, like you're being shot. I know when Battlefield introduced a whole kind of suppression system where it made your screen go blurry when you were being shot at, people really hated it. I kind of like it because it's kind of atmospheric, but I guess if you play these games really competitively, maybe you've got a different perspective on that to me, and that's fine. Also, I've seen people complaining about the map, something about the red dots not showing up when people shoot or something. Stuff like that, I kind of get annoyed when like the fan base starts complaining about it, and then the developers change it and make it more like it was in previous games. Like, I like them to take risks. I like for Call of Duty games to be different to each other. I like for them to do new things. And I get that, like, I'm possibly in the minority with this. Like, I feel like at least the online community, they spend ages talking about how every Call of Duty game is the same and they want it to be different. And then whenever the developers try to do something creative and different and innovative, they complain about it and say they want it like it used to be, you know, like Modern Warfare trying to get rid of the mini-map and stuff like that, or Ghosts trying bigger maps, or the advanced movement games and stuff like that. I personally liked all of those things. You know, I liked there not being the map in Modern Warfare. I thought it made it really interesting. It made it feel really different to play. I loved the advanced movement. I quite like the big maps in Ghosts and stuff like that. But yeah, I get I'm in the minority now. I just kind of wish people would trust the developers to make choices a bit more, rather than assuming that they know more about game design than the people who make the games do. But yeah, so generally, I think things were pretty good. I think it's something that, like, they can tweak little things, but I don't think there's any massive problems with the gameplay at all. I thought the map design was really good. Like, those 4 maps were really, really solid. I think it'll be interesting to see how they add new maps to Champion Hill, if Champion Hill does take off, if it's something that does well. And there's no guarantee of that. It might be something, you know, like the what's called Fireteam Elimination in Black Ops Cold War that they had it for a week or so and then just got rid of and never spoke of again. it'd be good if Champion Hill did take off. Are those maps like modular? Like, could they just swap in new maps? So you always have 4 maps, but there'll be different maps on like a rotation. Or will they have like a whole new Champion Hill map where you have a new set of 4? I don't know. But like those 4 maps they've done, I think they're really good. They all play really differently. They look kind of cool, although they all look a little bit samey, you know, same color palette and things like that, which makes sense because they're in the same location. It would be interesting to see like how different the multiplayer maps are from that. I thought the mode was really fun. It felt a lot like Gunfight with sort of some new additions and stuff like that. It felt a lot like Gunfight tournaments, but instead of having all the waiting around in the middle bit, you actually like were constantly moving around a little bit. I would say like the whole thing of just like you seeing how many lives you can get off the enemy or how many lives you can preserve in each game felt less impactful than Gunfight, where it's like you beat a team and then they're out. But I can see why they've done it this way. It's different. It's fine. It's interesting. So overall, I would say this Call of Duty feels different enough that I'm excited about it. I was probably a bit less excited about it before this started. You know, when I heard it was World War II, it's like World War II was the last Call of Duty game I didn't really like very much. I was a little bit worried that it kind of was just going to be more of the same, and I like that it feels quite different. I like that it feels different to the other games, so I'm excited to play it in November. Like, obviously, I'm super excited to play the betas in September, so we can get a bit of a more sense of multiplayer. I'm really excited to see what they do with Warzone, and I'll definitely be picking it up in November and playing it and enjoying it. Like, that's not a question. That being said, now we're getting on to the second part of the video. It has made me worry a little bit about Call of Duty. Now, obviously, Call of Duty is like this ridiculous juggernaut that is always going to sell loads of copies. It's always going to do incredibly well. So I'm not talking about it being like a dead game or anything like that, or talking about it sort of suddenly not being able to make money. Like, that's insane. Like, obviously, Call of Duty is going to do incredibly well for like at least the next decade. It would take like a decade of bad games, I think, before people really stopped buying Call of Duty games. But the hype for this was massively missing, I think. Like, this was the first chance to play a new Call of Duty game, and I just haven't seen people talking about it that much at all. Like, even the official social media channels have barely been talking about it, which I find really, really strange. There hasn't been loads of hype. There was like a load of creators were obviously invited to play it early, and they put videos up when it went live, and then I hardly saw any of them playing it at all for the rest of the weekend. Like, they weren't streaming it, they weren't making more videos about it. On Twitch, the viewership was unbelievably low, like way lower than Black Ops Cold War and Modern Warfare multiplayer, let alone stuff like Warzone. Like, people weren't really watching this, people weren't really playing this very much. Like, by the second day of the alpha, so about 24 hours after it launched, I was playing it with my friends. We were trying the 3v3 mode, and there were so few people playing it that our connections were always terrible, so I guess we were getting matched with people in other regions and stuff like that, and we were coming up against the same people over and over again. Now, part of that might be because it was 3v3 mode, maybe, less people playing that, but it seems really, really strange to start seeing the same people over and over again when it's like a completely free, open alpha for a new Call of Duty game. The console could be a big part of that, you know, it's a PlayStation thing. Obviously, loads of people have PlayStation 4s, so loads of people could play it, but it's obviously going to be less than it would be if it had Xbox and PC in, and especially in this kind of era of crossplay, it felt a little bit strange that, like, you know, they've spent a long time where lots of friendship groups would have been playing Call of Duty together for the last 2 years, regardless of which platform they're on, and now for this they're like, oh no, only the PlayStation people can play this. I think that anyone in their right mind hates exclusives. Like, it's never a good thing for something to be exclusive. It just, like, it's a business thing. It makes sense for the businesses behind us, but no players gain anything from stuff being exclusive, so I really, really hate that. But yeah, it felt strange that there were so few people playing, so few people watching, so few people talking about it, making videos about it, all things like that. It did feel like a real shame. I've been kind of planning for the last couple of weeks, well, since we knew about this, thinking this was going to be a massive weekend of streaming and making videos, and everything was going to be crazy, and like everything was going to do really well. And it just hasn't been hype. It's even been kind of tricky finding people to play this with, that like people just don't really want to play it. You know, they play it once and then they're kind of, yeah, I'm kind of done with that. Like, you know, I've played that mode. There's not much to it. And obviously a part of that is because there's not much content in the alpha. If you compare this to the Riders Republic beta that's been going on at the same time, the Riders Republic beta, you have the entire map, you've got loads of different types of events, you've got these mass races, they've been changing things like every day or so in the beta and adding new stuff, adding new features. There's loads of different vehicles, there's loads of stuff to do, everyone can play together. It's been absolutely awesome. Like, That compared to the Call of Duty one, where it's like, okay, you've got this one mode and it's on these 4 maps, and you just do that over and over and over again. We're not going to change the weapon sets, we're not going to change the score streaks or the kill streaks or anything. It has felt a little bit kind of, there's not much to do in it, which is fine, you know. It's like, kind of, I get it's an alpha, it's partly a technical test, although I don't think this is really an alpha, you know. This is very much a demo more than it is an alpha. It doesn't seem like they're testing anything in particular. If you go onto their feedback form, it's super basic. It's like, what did you find about, what did you think of the game? What platform you're playing it on? That's it. If you compare that to stuff like the Halo technical test, the Halo flight, where they had like ridiculously complex surveys and they were asking all different kinds of things about it, and other betas that have been happening with NDAs on and stuff like that, where they're doing true technical tests and they're trying lots and lots of different things all the time and asking people to be on at certain times. This definitely felt like this was just giving players a chance to play. That it didn't really feel like they were testing that much. And I might be wrong about that, you know, I'm not a developer, I don't know. But it didn't feel, in the way they're talking about it, it definitely felt like it's a chance to play, and they were like, oh, send us your videos of your top plays, rather than send us your bug reports because we want to know what's happening, or get online at this time because we're testing the servers. And the whole thing did feel really polished compared to other alphas. Like, the whole game felt really polished. There's a few bugs with the UI and stuff like that, and a couple of like vague graphical things, and like some options missing and stuff like that. But generally, it was pretty solid. So I think this was very much like a beta demo type thing. But yeah, overall, I would say people weren't that excited to be playing this. And I think there's a few different reasons for that. So first of all, there was no solos experience. Like, if they are going to have solos Champion Hill, that is going to be a thing that's happening. They didn't put that in this. And I think that's a problem, because if you're playing with in 2s and 3s and duos and trios, you either need to be playing with a friend, which a lot of people don't have a friend they can just hop on Call of Duty with. Like, a lot of people, especially as you get older, it gets harder and harder to find people to play at any given time. You know, and finding a friend that has a PlayStation particularly and wants to play the alpha with you can be quite challenging. And playing solos in this is kind of miserable, because, you know, your teammate might just quit after the first game, and then that basically ruins the entire game for you, or they might just be terrible. Like, it's not a lot of fun. So that can be maybe a thing that could be putting some people off. There is matchmaking and stuff like that, but it's not any fun playing with randoms, really. Also, it's a really competitive mode. So, like, in a 6v6 mode, like 6v6 beta, you can kind of, if you're messing around a little bit, or you're not doing very well, you're having kind of a bad game, you know, everyone's new to this game, it doesn't really matter, because there's a lot of other people. Like, your contribution is going to be less noticed than it would be in a 2v2 game. So in this, it feels like there's a lot of pressure on you to perform well, to do well, to focus and stuff like that. Whereas in a 6v6, like, no one really cares that much who wins and loses. Like, everyone's just kind of there having fun and messing around. So I think, like, lots of people might not want to play this mode for the same reason that they wouldn't want to play Gunfight in the last couple of modes, that, like, this is hyper competitive. You do kind of need to pay attention, and if you don't pull your weight, you're going to have a pretty terrible time, and everyone's going to be annoyed with you. So that might be a reason why people have been avoiding it as well. Then there's also the problem that lots of people are obviously moving away from multiplayer in general. Like, Call of Duty multiplayer just isn't as popular as it used to be. So plenty of people, me included, who used to play loads of multiplayer every time a new Call of Duty came out, moved over to Warzone over time. And that could be for loads of different reasons. Like, maybe you just got burnt out on Call of Duty multiplayer because you've been playing it for like the last, I don't know how long, 20 years or something. Some people might just be like excited about Warzone a little bit more because it still feels like something a little bit more fresh. Multiplayer does tend to get into that kind of weird loop of, like, you spawn, you kill some people, you die, you spawn, you kill some people, you die, and you just repeat over and over again. And that kind of gets dull after a while. It gets to be something that people don't like. Warzone has a chance to have, like, a story emerge. You have a lot of time before, you know, a failure, before you die, where you can be, like, looting and exploring and stuff like that, just time hanging out with your friends. I think that's been a big thing for this kind of last generation. Are games where you can just hang out with your friends. Games where there's not always the constant threat, so you're not always getting shot at or like in danger. So games like Sea of Thieves, where a lot of the time you're just sailing and chatting to your friends, or Valheim, where a lot of the time you're just in your base building stuff and talking to your friends, or Warzone, where you're just looting and stuff, and PlayerUnknown and Fortnite and stuff like that. These games have a lot of downtime, and I think people like that a lot, whereas multiplayer doesn't really have that. This also means that, like, when you've got that time where you're talking, time where you're not necessarily having to be 100% focused on what you're doing, that makes it much better for streaming and much better for interaction on streams. It often makes for better videos because you kind of have those kind of peaks and troughs of drama, which makes it a lot more exciting. I just think generally those kind of battle royale modes work a lot better for that kind of content, and for a lot of people it works a lot better with the way they want to play with their friends. So I think lots of people are starting to get a bit fed up of the kind of 6v6 thing. And if you are really into that kind of competitive multiplayer, there's been a lot of other games that have come out and done more interesting things with it over the last, you know, decade or so. So games like Overwatch with the hero abilities and everything, or Rainbow Six Siege, like being super tactical. I think like those kind of games have maybe surpassed Call of Duty a bit in the just sort of sheer multiplayer stakes, and a lot of people would rather play them. In conclusion, I like the alpha. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the alpha. I'm excited to play the game. I'm excited to play more of Vanguard. I'm excited to see more of it. I definitely think Warzone's where it's at for a lot of people, and so seeing the Warzone integration is going to be interesting. But I am excited for this game as well. Like, I'll definitely play some when it comes out. That being said, I think like it's worrying that the hype doesn't seem to be there for COD multiplayer. I think it would be really interesting, and I'm sure Activision would never ever release these, but I think it'd be really interesting to see some figures on how many people how much time is put in by people into the Call of Duty campaign, multiplayer, and zombies. How much money is spent buying the base game, and how much that costs to make, versus the same kind of statistics for Warzone. Like, how much money do people spend on Warzone? How much time do people spend playing Warzone? And like, how much does it cost to create Warzone and run it? Because in my head, it feels like Warzone's probably going to be a much better investment for them, a much better investment in terms of time and developer resources and money and all things like that, and they're going to get a much better return on that than they are on basically the entire main game of Call of Duty. And it makes me wonder whether we'll start seeing a shift towards that. I mean, some people would argue we already have. Like, when you get the updates in mid-seasons and stuff, often there's like one multiplayer map. You know, there's often not that much content for multiplayer compared to Warzone. Now, obviously, Activision are smart, and they have things like where a lot of the stuff crosses over, so operators and weapons and things like that work in both Warzone and multiplayer, so it's not an easy thing to separate. But I definitely do think this has made me really think that the Vanguard Alpha hasn't had that much hype, probably because of Warzone, like probably because other things are starting to overtake Call of Duty multiplayer, and that must be giving them pause for thought. That must be making them start to think, why are we still spending so much time and energy on this when we're not getting much of a return on that? And you've seen those kind of decisions being made before, you know, Black Ops 4 not having a campaign, Battlefield 2042 not having a campaign. You know, they must look and think like, okay, not many people are actually buying the game for the campaign, but it costs millions to make this. Why don't we just not do that and focus on the stuff that people are actually playing? How long before that conversation shifts to, well, people are really putting all their time into Warzone. Warzone's actually sort of the place where we're going to be making most of our money. Why don't we spend most of our money working on Warzone rather than trying to create a new game every single year with a new multiplayer, new zombies mode, new campaign that lots of people aren't putting that much time into anymore? I don't know. Like, and again, I've got no idea. I don't know the data behind this. I don't know statistics. That's just kind of a gut feeling, especially focused on the lack of hype for this. Anyway, bit of a more in-depth conversation than I was expecting to have about this. If you've got thoughts on this, please let me know in the comments. What do you think? Do you think there's much of a future for Call of Duty multiplayer and campaign and zombies? Do you think they should switch over focus to Warzone? What did you think of the Call of Duty Vanguard thing? I'd be really interested to know what people really liked about the Vanguard Alpha. Like, obviously it's super easy to find negative reactions to it, but what did people enjoy about this? What did people think was really, really good about it? I'd be interested to hear. If you like this video, especially where I'm sort of ranting a bit more, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.